you ever wondered why some people with average jobs and modest incomes end up wealthy, while others with six-figure salaries are drowning in debt? The truth is, financial success has far less to do with IQ and far more to do with behavior. In fact, one of the wealthiest janitors in history died with nearly $8 million, while Harvard graduates with fancy titles sometimes go bankrupt. Shocking, right? But here's the twist. You're going to see exactly why in just a moment. Welcome back to the channel, where we break down the hidden truths about money and wealth that schools never teach you. Today, we're diving deep into Morgan Housel's powerful book, The Psychology of Money. And I promise you this. If you stick with me for the next few minutes, you'll walk away with 5 money lessons that could completely change how you save, invest, and think about your financial future. But here's the real kicker. These lessons aren't about memorizing formulas or becoming a math wizard. They're about mastering the psychology of money, which is the game you're already playing, whether you realize it or not. So let's get into the first lesson. We start with one of the most overlooked truths in finance. Behavior matters more than intelligence. Let me give you 2 real-life examples. Ronald Reed was a janitor who lived frugally, drove an old car, and quietly invested in blue-chip stocks. When he passed away, he shocked his community by leaving behind an $8 million fortune. On the flip side, there are countless highly educated executives who earn massive salaries, yet lose everything because they overspend, overborrow, and chase risky bets. So ask yourself, which game are you playing? Are you building quietly in the background or chasing wealth that slips through your fingers? This leads us directly into the first major lesson. Luck and risk rule more than most people want to admit. Think about Bill Gates. Yes, he's brilliant, but brilliance alone wasn't the full story. He happened to attend one of the only high schools in the country that had a computer at the time. That stroke of luck shaped his future. On the other hand, there are equally smart, driven people who never had that opportunity, and their lives took a very different path. The key takeaway? Success is never purely merit, and failure isn't always a lack of effort. So what do you do with that information? You build humility into your financial life. When things go well, recognize that luck played a role. When things go badly, remember that risk is part of the game. And most importantly, you design a financial plan that can survive bad luck. That means keeping an emergency fund, diversifying your investments, and never putting yourself in a position where one bad bet can ruin you. Because here's the secret. You don't need to win every round. You just need to stay in the game long enough for the odds to eventually tilt in your favor. Now here's something most people miss. Getting rich and staying rich are 2 completely different games. And the skills you need for each one are not the same. To build wealth, you often need to take risks, think big, and lean into optimism. But to keep that wealth, you need discipline, patience, and sometimes even paranoia. The very habits that create wealth can destroy it if you never adapt. Here's a quick example. Athletes who suddenly earn millions but never change their spending habits often end up broke within a few years. On the other hand, Warren Buffett built his fortune by consistently protecting downside risk. His famous line says it best, "The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily." That means avoid actions that could wipe you out, because once you're out, compounding stops. So here's the question for you. Are you playing the game of getting rich or staying rich? And do your financial habits reflect the game you're actually in? That brings us to lesson 3. Wealth is what you don't see. Let me repeat that. Wealth is invisible. You see the Ferrari in the driveway, but you don't see the drained bank account behind it. You see the luxury vacation on Instagram, but you don't see the credit card debt waiting at home. True wealth is hidden because it's money not spent. It's money saved and invested. Nearly 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, even some earning over 6 figures. Why? Because income is not wealth. Spending is not wealth. Wealth is the gap between the two, the part you keep. And what wealth actually buys isn't status or flashy toys. It buys options. It buys freedom. The freedom to walk away from a toxic job, the freedom to take a risk on your own business, the freedom to spend time with your family instead of working overtime for a boss who doesn't value you. That's what wealth really means. But here's where most people stumble. They fall into lesson 4, the trap of never enough. Humans are wired to always want more. And if you don't define what enough looks like for you, society will do it for you. And guess what? Society's definition is endless. Bigger houses, fancier cars, more followers, more everything. It never stops. Think about executives who already have millions, yet risk their careers, reputations, even freedom, chasing just a little more. Why? Because they didn't stop to define what was already enough. The man in the car paradox explains it well. When you see someone in a luxury car, you don't actually admire them. You imagine yourself in the car. People don't care as much about your possessions as you think. So risking your stability for the approval of others is a losing game. So I'll ask you, have you defined your enough? Or are you letting comparison and social media push the finish line further away every year? Finally, lesson 5, and this is the one that hits hardest. Saving buys control over your time. At the end of the day, the highest return money pays isn't in stuff. It's in freedom. Freedom to wake up and decide how you'll spend your day. Freedom to work with people you respect, not just people you tolerate. Freedom to walk away when something no longer serves you. Even a modest emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses can give you a sense of peace and power you can't put a price tag on. Because the reality is, the world is uncertain. Jobs vanish, industries collapse, health issues strike out of nowhere. But if you've saved, you have options, and options are priceless. As Morgan Housel puts it, the ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want for as long as you want is the highest dividend money pays. So let's bring these 5 lessons together. Luck and risk are real, so design a financial system that can withstand them. Getting rich and staying rich are different, so know which game you're in. Wealth is invisible, it's the money you don't spend. Define your enough before it's too late. And finally, remember that saving isn't about hoarding. It's about buying back your time and your freedom. Now let me close with this. The psychology of money is not about out-earning everyone else. It's about aligning money with meaning. It's about designing a life that feels rich, even if it doesn't always look rich from the outside, and that's the secret most people miss. So let me ask you, what's one lesson from today that hit home the most? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and you might even inspire someone else reading through them. If you found value in this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And go check out my video on how to retire 10 years early, Financial Freedom Roadmap. It'll give you the exact blueprint for hitting your first major financial milestone. Remember, money is a tool. Use it wisely, and it will buy you not just things, but freedom, choices, and the life you've always wanted.